right, we are at third time's the charm with building a composite intake. The first one, way too complicated. It was gonna take so long to get everything to work, and it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. The second one, I thought I could just fiberglass directly over the foam. That didn't work. It ended up actually making some fairly massive craters in the structure. I've spent so long trying to sand this, get this smooth, but it's still so lumpy, and I'm over it. So for the third one, I'll show you how to make it, and hopefully it turns out correctly so I don't have to delete all the video. So I'm starting off getting my rough cuts around. I'm leaving plenty over the front radiator support, just because the hood does come relatively far over and it has a fairly decent kick out for a large intake opening. If possible, I'd like to get the air filter over here. I'm going with a cone style filter. It provides a lot more surface area compared to just a flat panel filter. So looking to have as much air ready to suck through the tiny restrictor as possible. With that being said, positioning the filter over here, I would almost like to try and make the air box come out so it's a little bit of ducting for the radiator fan. I'm gonna keep this hood vent open. As you can see, it would make a fairly decent vent. I'll try to duct it off that way. With all of that said, I'm gonna continue trimming up my first piece. Here's the first rough layer. I need to add down here. Obviously, I need the depth for the filter itself. I do have plenty of hood clearance back here. As you can see, it's kicked out. And then I need to start trimming for it to fit in here, but I would like to fill this gap underneath first, just so I don't make this top layer too thin and carving it becomes difficult. All right, so I have my rough additions on here. Obviously, I'll go through and smooth all these out, contour all these hard edges. But it fits exactly where it needs to be. Still have plenty of room for there. I can access the clamps and what have you, shift linkages, so trying to make this serviceable. Intercooler pipe will still work. Clears the radiator, and like I was saying, I tried to make it more of a scoop to try and push or draw air from the radiator this direction and then out the left, or sorry, passenger right hood scoop. Now that we've got our rough shape and kind of molded out, I'll probably have to add a piece here just to make a nice contour. But I'm gonna let the top side, the glue cure for a little bit. So I'm gonna use a DA and try and kind of... So here's after a sand of 200 grit. Lines up to the turbo. Plenty of room for the filter. I think I'll slice this. I'm not sure how I'll do it yet, but to get the filter on the inside. So I'm gonna cut this into 2 pieces, and then I'll fold fabric or composite over it to create a flange. And then I'll have snaps on both sides, kind of like an OEM car, to hold the front portion onto the back. Now these are both wrapped 100% in packing tape. Everything came out relatively smooth. Here's the front part of the intake. This will be up on the grill. The filter will go into that side. I tried to make those somewhat even. Obviously, kind of failed right there. But this side, nice and straight. So as you saw with the first part, I did 1 layer of all of my drops, and just to give it a little bit of strength. Alright, so here is 1 layer down. I know it kind of looks a mess, but everything is nice and smooth pressed onto it. There's a few stray hairs, don't mind that. So here is the carbon Kevlar intake. Here's the seam, filter will sit in here, bracket will come off of here. I need to clean this area up so a coupler can fit there. Most likely builds some kind of mount and mount. This will all get trimmed off in here, and that will be the intake, or the inlet for the intake. So it'll pull right through here. So I've got it taped together roughly. I'll have to go through and clean that whole mating surface area up. But have it marked where I need to trim it to fit over the restrictor. I'll also have to mark it along here, and I marked down here to cut as an opening. I may keep behind this tube just to give the opening of this piece a little bit more rigidity. But I'll cut all of this out as well. Not much air will go through that little hole, but it does open up back there. And as you can see when we close the hood, there will be plenty of intake in there. I'll end up splitting this grill in half. Half will feed the radiator back here. It will cap off the top of the intercooler, and then the very top will catch all of the intake. Thank you for watching part 1. Make sure to come back for part 2 when we cut these sections both apart and we final install it.